Hello, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Kalia Garrido, and I head up strategic events and marketing here at Hike 2. So, if you don't know us already, Hike 2 is a fully functional, best-in-class innovation consultancy, and we specialize in digital transformation strategy, design, implementations. Our main areas of expertise are in AI, cloud solutions, data and analytics. And you are in for a treat today as we have a seriously smart gentleman ready to take us through a very interesting topic. Before we begin, let's go through some housekeeping. This is a webinar, of course, so your cameras and microphones are off, but we do encourage engagement via the chat, the Q&A, and we'll reserve a little bit of time at the end of the session if anybody has a question that they would like to ask live. We are recording the session today, and this will be posted on our YouTube channel along with a plethora of other innovation forward content. And I'll share the link here in the chat soon so that you can make sure to follow us there and get that recording. We are also very excited to announce that our annual Innovation Summit is now live. We are accepting RSVPs. We're going to be gathering in person in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the end of March. It's happening March 25th and 26th. And I'll share some more information about that as well. That's one of the specific reasons that we're so excited to introduce our guest today, who is Garry Polmateer. He is the CEO of Red Argyle. Gary's going to be doing a live workshop that is a kind of a continuation and a follow-on to the conversation that we're going to have today. So if this sounds interesting to you, highly recommend that you check out our Innovation Summit, and we'll provide some links to make sure that you can find your way there as well. So let me start by introducing Red Argyle. Red Argyle is our highly valued strategic partner to Hike 2. It is an expert consultancy with specific expertise in Salesforce, cybersecurity, and Agentforce, like what we're going to talk about today, as well as Experience Cloud and UX, and they're, kind of security experts at all levels. So a little bit about Garry. Allow me to read a little bio here. Garry Polmateer specializes in helping Salesforce stakeholders maximize the platform's potential, especially for complex or custom use cases. As the CEO of Red Argyle, he draws on 24 plus years of IT experience across consulting, development, business analysis, and network administration. He is a Salesforce MVP and Hall of Fame member. Garry has spent the last 9 years or so optimizing Salesforce implementations for businesses in both nonprofit and for-profit sectors. His leadership has earned him a spot in the 2019 Albany Biz Review for 40 Under 40. And beyond work, Garry enjoys Legos, chainsaws, blacksmithing, and spending time with his wife and two children, channeling his creativity into every project he takes on. Garry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the warm intro. Um, yeah, just to reflect on, it's been great to partner with Hike 2 over the last about year and a half. We've done some really exciting projects together, and it's just been really great to get to work with your teams with some exciting customers as well. And yeah, thanks for having me today. Um, so I've got a couple quick intro type slides that Kalia pretty much covered. But she can't verbalize my LinkedIn QR code. So if anybody wants to shoot that code up real quick, feel free. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and engage over messages all the time. I'm always happy to share my email as well, which I think is at the end of the show. Um, yeah, one other big announcement. I got a really haircut since this picture was taken. So the long hair thing. Speaking of being in tech for 24 years, I think I'm aging out of that stage of life.
Nice.
So my organization, Red Argyle, we've been a Salesforce partner since 2010. So it's actually, now we're in our 16th year working towards our anniversary this year. And we founded our company on just a spirit of innovation, working with great customers and also taking care of our staff. We've got a great team here, long tenured Salesforce professionals. We work in everything from literally two-person organizations all the way up to some of the biggest companies in the world. And I feel like innovation is a universal language that any organization can take advantage of. So I've been fortunate to be able to provide that to a diverse group of companies. Um, our organization specializes, as Kalia said, complex custom. We used to say complex custom and weird. Now I think we're shifting that to more like complex custom and accelerated, um, where while there are so many standards and best practices in the Salesforce ecosystem, each business interprets that a little bit different. And sometimes just that little icing on the top of a project can really help make things work better for your organization. So that's where some of the complex and custom comes in. We'll take a standard process, make a beautiful UI for it, and just make it flow really well. Um, we were one of the opening Agentforce ready partners in the Salesforce ecosystem. On top of that, we have a cybersecurity practice based on years of enterprise work. So, with a lot of the AI stuff, which we'll talk about, there are some cybersecurity considerations that I'll bring up and talk through a little bit. And then we do a lot of scale type work. So Experience Cloud has been a place where our team spends a lot of time because you can really get that leverage effect when you're running an Experience Cloud out to your partners, and then you put AI on top and really see that flywheel go. So that's Red Argyle in a nutshell, and happy to answer any questions as we go on today. As Kalia said, feel free to drop questions in the chat. If it's a good time, she'll hit the pause button on this guy and say, hey, we got a good question. I'm happy to answer them in real time. We've got a little bit of buffer in the schedule to answer questions, and then at the end we can do Q&A if it's helpful. Always happy to catch up offline later. So let's talk about what we're going to cover today, and then we'll jump right in. Again, we're going to talk about filling this big mysterious idea of, hey, we want to get Agentforce up and running in our organization. How do we do it, and what are some considerations to do so? I've been working with Agentforce for almost 2 years now, helping organizations make sense of it. So we're going to talk about how, why, and when it makes sense. We're going to talk about a couple stories of how to apply this process in the real world and what we've delivered for some of our customers. And then, hopefully that's enough for you to get started. What I'll say, I am not a 22x certified engineering expert. I'm happy to take questions. If I don't know the answer, I will gleefully say, I don't know the answer, but I know someone who does, and we're happy to get back in touch with you after the call with an answer or a call to kind of go deeper on something. So let's get going. At Dreamforce last year, this number was literally the talk of the town, and I don't know how many times I saw it referenced across the zeitgeist of AI conversations. So in August, August 18th, if you want to be specific, last year, MIT released a study that claimed 95% of AI projects fail. Now, there's two things with that. Number one, the sample size was not particularly large, and there were some other scientific inquiries into the validity of the study and so forth. But number two, that study is now at least 6 months old, or soon to be 6 months old, which is about 10 years in AI years or AI months. Things are moving incredibly, incredibly fast in the AI space, and things are changing incredibly fast. So even though this number, let's just say it was completely accurate 6 months ago, even right now, we have the Rand Corporation is saying 80% fail. Gartner is saying 52 to 85% of them fail. And I'm not here to talk about failure. I'm here to talk about see how fast things are improving. Like literally, if we went from 95 to 80, that means 4x more projects are succeeding right now. It means companies are innovating and figuring out how to make sense of this AI stuff. And our win rates here at Red Argyle are way, way, way better than that. We're doing really well with our AI projects. It is possible to have a good strategy using the right technology that's available today to deliver good results for your organization. And I just want to encourage you to say, I know these numbers are out there, but we can be the exception because we're working with the right partners, because we're thinking about this. And some of the stuff I'll take you through will help with your planning process and building a path to a successful project. So uh, I know we love big numbers, 95. We love hockey stick curves. This is not to scale, but if you think about Salesforce was founded in 1999. Their big innovation is the cloud. They literally were helping spearhead the cloud infrastructure revolution where companies were no longer running software on their own bare iron servers in their back room. 2026 or 2016. So again, 17 years pass. Salesforce says, hey, we have this thing. It's AI, it's predictive intelligence. We're going to start bringing it into our product. First Einstein release. So that's where you were getting things like deductive reasoning and some even early stage photographic recognition type stuff. They were just getting into it. Fast forward, this little COVID thing happened. Another almost decade. Salesforce says, hey, we have actual AI now. We're calling it Agentforce, and we're bringing this to market. So the funny thing is, in 2024, I'm not going to put a bullet here, but I got invited to a preview in March of 2024, and that was the first time I ever saw Agentforce. In October 2024, Salesforce releases the product in a fully market-ready way. I'll say with limited capabilities and a lot to learn, but they did it. So things are accelerating. We're climbing up this hockey stick. February 2025, Salesforce announces Agentforce 2. So already, not that many months later, we're getting an overhaul of how Agentforce is functioning. We have more bring your own LLM capability. It's starting to open up and embrace the ecosystem. In September of 2025 at Dreamforce last year, they kind of roped everything into what they're calling the Agentforce 360 suite, because now what's happening is we're building up the deep platform capabilities of Agentforce. We've got Agent Builder, we've got Agent Script, and a real notable product offering. So Salesforce re-architected their IT support product to be completely agentic. And that's a trend I think we're going to keep seeing happen. 2026, so we're a few months post Dreamforce now. We've got Agentforce Vibes, their vibe coding tool. Oops, that's a typo. We've got Data 360, which is really enhancing and improving and integrating the data cloud functionality with Agentforce. They've added commerce, which Salesforce is making a big bet on. We've got Slackbot, and we've also got MuleSoft Fabrics, which is improving orchestration. We've got the Informatica buy, which Informatica is going to have all these integrated agentic connectors, and I think is going to be a big MCP. So faster and faster and faster and faster, and more and more and more. Because not only is Salesforce innovating at a human pace, they're bringing agentic functionality into their own product lifecycle. So that can feel quite overwhelming. And if it feels overwhelming because I just rattled off like 300 different products and functions, you're not alone. The tech is evolving faster than we know what to do with it. And I do sincerely think that's changing. And here's why it's changing. Number one, as an industry, we're all gaining experience in how to deploy, utilize agentic functionality. And number two, the agents are now helping us build agents. And we're starting to see this almost meta effect of, okay, now that we have all this AI, we can actually use the AI to figure out what other AI to leverage faster and faster, and et cetera. So Salesforce has been, I think, smart in focusing on the platform first, and now they're really starting to expand out to individual capabilities, which I think is really exciting stuff. But we're still in a very questioning state right now. Hey, I'm a business. My boss said I need to do something with AI. Where am I going to use Agentforce and all these million other technologies that are available here? And I would be lying if I said Agentforce will solve all your problems, because it will not. Don't tell Salesforce I said that. Salesforce and Agentforce have very specific places where they can bring a ton of value, allow for rapid innovation. But there are use cases that make a lot of sense to use other products for, either point solutions that use AI, or build, custom models, or build some really heavy duty processing stuff that's off platform to save cost. So there's a lot going on in the greater AI space, and I want to break that down a little bit. So first, I present the Garry special, two charts of my own invention. Um, I did this to try to illustrate where what type of use cases Agentforce is what you'd consider its sweet spot. So we're going to look at two matrices first. Number one is change versus volume. So how fast do things change, your business processes and innovation happening, all that stuff, and what is the volume of transaction? So something like a manufacturer with a really running a big factory and an assembly line that makes the same product year after year, and is trying to optimize similar processes would probably have a lower pace of change than a SaaS company who is constantly delivering new features, things like that. Volume. Is this something that I process once a day, or is this something that I process 85,000 times a day? So when we think about the change in the volume, low change warrants or aligns better to what I would call traditional automations, kind of hard coded deterministic automation, or as volume increases, building your own LLMs, building your own models, doing things like taking AWS, building a stack, push your own stuff in there and run it, buying other off the shelf AI processes that you're modifying, because they're not going to change a lot and the volume is high, so you're going to see a cost savings. Um, in areas where the volume is high, but the level of change starts increasing, that's where we start to see where Agentforce starts to make a whole lot of sense. And if you have high change and a high volume, maybe a hybrid makes sense. If you have a high change and lower volume, that's like the sweet spot for Agentforce. And when I say lower volume, I mean like millions of transactions a day is probably high volume. Tens of thousands of transactions a day, hundreds of thousands a day, it might still work for Agentforce. You just need to do an ROI analysis on the consumption cost there versus consumption cost of your own models. When you have a lower volume and a higher pace of change, Agentforce is going to win every time, because an admin with some basic knowledge of Agentforce can go in and build what they need to build. So just again, just a little food for thought with all of that. The next chart I'm going to look at is cost versus volume, and these are not, quantitative numbers. So this is again just trying to illustrate where the different things might fit. And we go from 0 to at scale, big stuff. We go from free or cheap to expensive. And then, we're looking at three different options, kind of have the ROI curve here. So Agentforce, very low cost of entry. The prices tend to scale up faster with consumption. Hybrid, meaning some Agentforce and probably some off-platform functionality. Again, you kind of get that middle curve. And then DIY, high cost of entry, but low incremental increases as things scale, because you already built the infrastructure, you own it. You're not really as beholden to tick consumption-based pricing. So if we kind of look at like, where are we going to look for Agentforce in hybrid and DIY? We're going to look for Agentforce in a, again, lower, where we need to have lower cost and where scale is not huge. And then we kind of go up to hybrid or up to that DIY, build your own model to save the most money. So again, just a couple charts to kind of help visualize where I like to position Agentforce when I'm working with clients, and trying to be smart about cost of ownership, if you will, for what we expect. So the sweet spot, lots of bullets. It's funny, I put this through an AI coach before I did this presentation, and the AI coach said there was too many bullets on this slide, but I ignored it. So I'm sorry that you have to suffer through this. But Agentforce sweet spot, any pilot, even if you're thinking, yeah, I want to build my own server because I know it's going to have all this high volume, maybe Agentforce is a good way to validate the logic first, where you're going to run a number of transactions or a number of users using Agentforce. Um, Internal agents are a great place for Agentforce because you can change them constantly. You're never leaving the Salesforce trust barrier, and you're increasing the productivity of your internal team, which is still a win, even if it's just incremental improvement. An example of that right now would be the new Slack bot that they just dropped, and you literally just had to turn it on. And you can go to that Slack bot now and say things like, "Hey, Slack bot, are there any threads I really need to follow up on?" And it will search your history and come back with some reasonably good answers. That saves me time. Maybe it's only minutes a day, but that adds up. Um, so if we're working with native data in Salesforce, that's a home run for Agentforce because you can access everything in the database. Partner portal I talked about, you get that scale really fast. Um, I'm going to say low volume, high value customer service. So a lot of times, there are like a stream of customer service tickets where Agentforce is highly successful at resolving tickets. An example would be, and I'll talk about it a little bit below. Customer had half of their tickets were lost and found. Agentforce is a great solution for that because lost and found, the AI can really do stuff that saves humans time. Um, Processes that change a lot. Again, an admin can go in and make changes on the fly if needed. They'll always recommend testing, blah, blah, blah. Your admin, and then trust and regulated. And I'm not going to do a deep dive on cybersecurity today, but if you are in a regulated industry and you need a lot of sign-offs on how you're processing data, specifically with AI, uh, keeping things with native Agentforce keeps it all within Salesforce's trust boundary. You also will get the support of Salesforce to help you with the approvals that you need. So again, there's a feather in their cap for that. And Salesforce's number one value is trust, which I believe wholeheartedly that they still do everything they can to maintain that. So what does an Agentforce project lifecycle typically involve? I want to encourage everybody here to go fast. Agentforce can be built fast. It can be tested fast. It can even be tested at scale fast with some of the new functionality. I want to build Agentforce projects in weeks, not months. The faster we get the first agent ready for humans to interact with it or processes to interact with it, the faster we're going to start saving money. And just like any software development, we're going to improve it over time. We're going to add new features. We're going to improve the way prompts work. We're going to improve the context. So our life cycle, I want to think of like a 1 month cycle where we're planning, building, validating, measuring success all within the course of a month. Naturally, as humans, we're programmed to think about a month. And I have been pushing our teams to do Agentforce projects in this monthly cycle of review and improvement. So from here, when I've kind of set the context of the conversation, now we'll get to the meat of the conversation, which is, well, show me what has been done. Show me how to replicate this. So I'm going to do this with two stories. The first one will be a little bit more detailed so that you can kind of understand what was going on. And then the second one, I'll just do a recap on that. So first one is a chatbot. We met with a customer. They were struggling with their chatbot. It was a deterministic chatbot where they had someone programming out this long, ever expanding tree of if someone clicks this or says this, then you need to say that. And it was like every single input output combo was hard coded. As a user, it was a terrible experience because you were kept on very strict rails, basically, where you could only make a few choices at any given time to try to get where you wanted to go. It was like the worst phone tree ever, except you had to like click buttons in a chatbot and hope that you eventually get where you need to go. So that was definitely tricky. They lost their admin, and the new admin was like, I have no idea how this works. It's complicated. We need to move beyond this. We had a business that was saying, hey, our customer service scores aren't great. Our inbound support channel is just like struggling, and this chatbot's not really helping. Um, and there was a very expensive license behind the project, which a quick ROI dictated Agentforce will be cheaper, even if it used consumption for every ticket that came through. So all the conditions were met to say this could definitely be a great Agentforce project. And if you've ever seen an Agentforce demo, Salesforce always talks about chat first because if you think, that's just how people interact with AIs a lot of the time. So we started there as well for this project. So the first thing that we did was say, well, let's break down what exactly is that old chatbot doing? And we went through, and I actually did this because I still consult a little bit. I went through all of these different click paths to see where is this chatbot taking me. And when we were done, it was amazing and scary to think there's been all of this development done so that this chatbot can do four things. It's either going to intake and create a new lead, it's going to push them to the next menu items. It's going to create and intake a case, or it's going to push them out to literally one of 8 different content links. So again, the hunch was it's going to be a good Agentforce project. After we did this, it reinforced like, wow, the logic and the context for an agent is not going to be terribly difficult. So after we did the review of dispositions, this is where, again, I'm going to say for you as a viewer, as someone who's thinking about an Agentforce implementation, going through this exercise is a crucial step in figuring out what to do with Salesforce. Here's what you're going to want to do. Get yourself, your Salesforce admin, your business stakeholders, whoever's saying you need to use AI, put a meeting on the calendar and say, we're going to talk for an hour about AI. You can steal this chart, do whatever you want, hand copies out to everyone and say, all right, first up, and you're going to brief them. Everything I'm about to tell you, you tell them. We're here today to talk through, designing our first AI agent or our second or third or whatever. We want to brainstorm ideas. We don't want to be limited in what we're thinking about. We want to be smart about where we apply the technology. And then we can talk through everything in this chart. So first of all, what is the task that we want this agent to potentially do? In the case of the chatbot example that I'm talking about right now, we know we want it to create leads. We know we want it to deflect cases by suggesting helpful resources. We know we want it to help with case intake. The next question is the persona. Who's involved or who's using the tool? It's amazing to me how often I see really smart business users forget to clarify what persona a piece of technology is targeted towards. So it's really important to call this out because it just is imperative for story development and figuring this tech out. So it's going to be a prospect, or it's going to be a customer or a prospect. Again, they're not authenticated. We don't know. So we have to kind of guess like these actions are going to cater towards this particular persona. Just get that documented along the rest. The next one's got to be what inputs do we need to complete the task? Well, we're going to need the customer's contact information and whatever other demographic details are important. What is the chatbot? Is it deterministic or is it probabilistic? Again, can we use that deterministic logic, which is what we're moving away from, or can we use a probabilistic logic to kind of have a more informative conversation that's more natural? So lead intake, we actually found out is very deterministic. It's like, if you are interested in product, fill out lead form. But these ones are a little more tricky. Probabilistic, interpret user issues. So we wanted it to be able to have a little bit of a conversation and qualification before creating a new ticket. And if it had to create a new ticket, ask the right questions that are relevant to the ticket. So instead of having to hard code all of that in, with Agentforce, you can say, here's the information I would like you to collect, blah, 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 for these ticket types. And it's smart enough to ask the questions before it creates the ticket. Um, Next question, what does it need to know? For the lead intake, we need to bring the user down a path to give us their information. For the case intake, we want it to have knowledge of our knowledge base. We want it to know how our case process works so that it can insert the right type of information on the first pass, things like that. So this is an important question because it sets you up for later design work around context, around where's data cloud fit, where do other data sources come into play, things of that. Is it authenticated? Do they need to authenticate to know this information? Whoops. So, hey, go back. Um, so just food for thought. Like this is a very important question. What does that agent need to know? Because this is what it's going to do, but what does it need to know to do that? Um, and again, we're brainstorming right now. So we're not writing War and Peace. We're just trying to get a bunch of non-technical business stakeholders to proffer information that we, as the technical and business analysts, can use to turn into agentic functionality. Finally, what does the output look like? I'm going to create a lead with the right fields filled in. I'm going to suggest helpful content. I'm going to insert a case. So we're just following through on what a successful completion of something looks like. That's it. Most companies I've worked with have not even done this much prep work before they want to talk to us about spending money on Agentforce. And I'm saying this can absolutely be managed in-house. You don't need fancy consultants to run these basic exercises so that when you come talk to a consulting partner, you can work together on diving right into the work you're looking to do. And two other funny things about this slide. Number one, I learned some of this process from a presentation at the Innovation Summit last year, where one of the speakers had a variant of this as part of one of their discussions. And I thought, wow, that's really smart. But for Agentforce, we want to tweak a couple things so that it's aligned into Salesforce. So I learned a lot going to the Innovation Summit myself last year, which immediately improved my ability to be a consultant on this stuff. Number two, some of this is what I'm going to run in a live workshop at Innovation Summit next year. So if you're like, that sounds really cool, but I need some coaching and you're thinking about coming, we're going to have you a room set up with all the good stuff so that we can run a live workshop, have some debate discussion, and hopefully innovation that gets shared across whoever shows up, different peers. Um, so after all that prep work's done, then it turns into a technical exercise. Well, let me back up. And I probably should have a slide for this. So Kayla, you can give me a C for missing a slide. The next thing that we wanted to do with this information, and I would encourage you to do it, is to do what I'd call a basic ROI analysis. So if we think about drive qualified leads, we can look at things like, what does it cost us to get a lead right now? Will this lower our CAC if we have Agentforce doing it for us? Is there a volume consideration? Do we have someone who spends a lot of time processing leads that they're not going to spend as much time processing it anymore? For cases, is there a cost of case? If you're able to successfully deflect, is there a savings? Is there an intake cost? Because you used to have 8 back and forths, but now the agent is reducing that to 2 because it's collecting the right information in an automated way. So those are questions that you figure out: time savings, cost savings, risk reduction, multiply by volume, and you start to get an ROI picture for where to put energy. And with anything, I always recommend that magic quadrant: low effort, high impact. What is going to be the lowest effort, highest impact use cases to go after? All 3 of these, there was actually like 12 that we brainstormed, but these three were the lowest effort, highest impact. Um, we had stuff that was like automate renewals and things like that, but they were high effort, high impact. We said, let's start with the low effort ones, get some wins, get everyone running on the tool, get our security approvals, and then we'll go after the harder ones. Um, so this one was interesting. We started working with a bus company, and the bus company said, we spend all of our time chasing lost and found objects. They get 40,000 cases a year. 20,000 of them were lost and found. So obviously that seems like a pretty interesting thing. So we did all of the matrix work that we did up above. Um, so I'm going to show you. We actually flipped this demo is for a stadium. Um, After doing the bus company, we said, hey, what about sports stadiums? And guess what? A lost and found process is almost the same no matter where, yeah, where you're thinking, schools, stadiums, whatever. So at Red Argyle, selfishly, I'm marketing this all over the place to try to see who else needs help with their lost and found. Um, but it's such a great use case for Agentforce because if you think about it, there's an intake, there is a matching process, there is a um, resolution process. Agents can help facilitate all of those steps. So here's just a little conversation preview from the builder. Hey, I lost my red Yeti tumbler. I have my black Yeti tumbler coffee cup today. I love them. I would feel really bad if I lost my red one. Um, and and then the agent actually came back and said, "Oh yeah, I found something that matches your description." Um, we push this even further. Now let's talk about a whole journey. Um, so this was many stories that were driven by a few workshops between us internally and working with some prospects. And we workshopped like I showed you up above to figure out this process a little bit more. Um, so we have the big event at the stadium. Staff found an item. It can actually, and we have this. This is all real technology. It works. It's demoable. If anyone really wants to see it, let me know. Um, you take a picture. Agentforce uses its photo recognition capabilities to say, and we have a use case. It's like a purple Louis Vuitton bag, and you take a picture of a purple Louis Vuitton bag and feed it in, and Agentforce will describe it pretty accurately. And then an attendee reports they lost their item. They put their description in. Hey, I lost my purple Louis Vuitton bag. It looks like this. And the agent is built to ask descriptive questions. So they put in information. Then the agent will see what's a match. Then a manager will review the suggested match and say, okay, that bag looks like that case. And then it drafts and sends an email to the attendee. Hey, we think we found your thing. Call this number to set up a pickup, or however that process works. So agents are helping multiple times throughout the life cycle. It's not just a chat, it's not just an email, it's a iterative series of interactions where an agent is helping through. And what's this going to do for clients that buy it? They're going to save money on support costs. Attendees are going to just be, I would say, delighted by having a unified experience where they don't have to wait around and hope and pray their thing gets found. Agent will kind of be in the middle as an intermediary. It's going to save a lot of back and forth with humans because, there's been times when I've lost things, thank God not too many, where I've called like 5 times. Did anybody find it? Did anybody find it? Did anybody find it? Now at least I'll be able to talk to an agent to see if anybody found it instead of bothering people. So anyway, that's the type of stuff where if you think about the complex, custom, and weird use cases, like this is Service Cloud through and through. Standard Service Cloud functionality. The complex and the custom is the vision of saying, wow, within that Service Cloud, there's a lot of lost and found going on. Let's use an agent specifically for that and save some money, and then we'll keep proceeding into other cases. And that leads me to that concept of land and expand. Agentforce is a lot easy to do exciting things with if you've started doing boring things first. So going back to those internal agents, those easy to win use cases where you're building confidence, you're building competence in administrating the system, you're learning along the way to keep tackling those more complicated use cases. Um, and there's so many layers behind it, things like data cloud, which again, I'm not qualified to give a detailed in-depth dive, but imagine when you plug in a data cloud, which is now using connectors into other data information stores in your business. Um, I mean, it just greatly expands when we go to that question, what does the agent need to know? Now it can know what's in Salesforce and all these other places, all kind of unified and automated with Data Cloud to produce some interesting results. Um, and it's just absolutely 100% a journey. I've done IT projects where I know where it's going to start, I know what needs to get built, and I know what the end result looks like. I have to say, with AI, we know where we're starting. We have a somewhat visible view of where we want to go. Two things are going to happen along the way. Number one, three things, two things. Number one, we're going to learn a lot about what's working, what's not. Number two, the baseline capabilities of AI are going to keep maturing as quite likely as rapidly as we're building. So things are going to get better faster. So we don't necessarily always know where we're going to end up, but we got to start with a vision and then start working our way there. And if we take it in these little bite-sized projects along the way, we're going to be able to refine our vision along the way and keep moving in a positive way that brings ROI to our stakeholders. Um, so this is my near penultimate slide for the day. And I'm calling it the most information packed slide of the day. On this one, it looks a little bit different than my other ones because I just wanted to showcase when you click in Google Slides the beautify this slide button. AI decided it would look better if I formatted it this way. I don't necessarily agree, but I left it in here just as a nugget to say it's amazing because this feature didn't exist a month ago and now it's here. And it does an okay job at reformatting and adding some graphics and all that stuff. So really exciting stuff. And what I'll say is we didn't talk about cybersecurity a lot. So I just want to touch on, the major theme. With any IT project, there's cybersecurity stuff to think about. So we really want to think about what's your regulatory environment? What solution are you leading towards? If it is a pure play Agentforce solution, you're going to have a lot easier time getting through the necessary approvals, but you're still going to have some work to do because it's all based on what data you're processing. It's things like GDPR. If you do certain operations with data, it's considered processing the information. Running it through an AI is absolutely going to qualify as processing information. Are you going to be able to tokenize stuff? So Salesforce has the trust layer. Instead of sending my name, you can send a randomized token. It sends back a response with a token and not a name. That might help you through some barriers. Is the LLM, how is it configured? Is it learning? Is it retaining or not? So these are all really important questions that needs to be answered before you push this stuff to production. And I'm not saying it to like stymie any efforts. Just want to be considerate because the worst project is one where you deliver an amazing solution and then it gets shut down by security team or privacy team or regulations. So just saying that out loud, always got to think of security when we're doing this stuff. But before we even think about security, we need to know what we're going to try to do with AI, hence all the other stuff I talked about above. So that brings us to our closing. Again, there's my LinkedIn, and happy to take any questions if there's a question, and get us out on time.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much, Garry. So yeah, great time for questions. If anybody has any questions, then they can just go ahead and put it right into the chat. You could also use the Q&A function. But I have a question, Garry, about something that I've kind of heard before when it comes to Agentforce or in my own usage with, with a GPT model. Sometimes after asking the same question or like almost the same question a couple times, you could get a different answer. Do you know, like, are they seeing that with Agentforce? Is there any kind of
Mhm.
like remedy that they might have for a use case like that?
Yeah, so I've been seeing, again, this is, live, like we're all learning together as an industry.
Yeah.
And what we're used to in the automation space is like, if this input happens, then I'm programming the system to have this specific output.
Mhm.
Um, and we've spent our whole lives kind of living that way. One plus one always equals two. In and that's called deterministic output.
Mhm.
It's predetermined. It's determined what's going to happen when you answer the question. In AI, you're getting what's called probabilistic output. I could say, "What's the weather today?" And it could say, "It's cloudy." I could say, "What's the weather today?" And it could say, "It's cloudy with a 40% chance of snow." Um, Same question asked two different times, you get two variants of the answer. And that's kind of what happens. You get, I'll call it like a cloud of answers. Like they're all probably right or close to right, but they're not always the same. And in a lot of cases, like customer service and things like that, you can minimize the spread of those answers with good grounding and good knowledge. But in things, here's an example. I saw a demo and it was parsing medical labels and it made a mistake with a drug and it instead of saying 10 milligrams, it said 10 micrograms in the output, which doesn't sound like that big of a deal. And an AI is like mg versus mcg or whatever. But that's like, 1 billionth the amount of medication or something that the patient was going to get administered if again it was a demo, it wasn't so it's things like that where you start to see, okay, I need some deterministic uh, success to manage risk. So Salesforce has been innovating and building what they call hybrid reasoning, so they're making it easier for admins to call out use cases in the flux of an agentic discussion to kind of ratchet it back towards a more deterministic output. And I do really think that that's going to be a big focus this year as improving overall accuracy and consistency of responses in higher risk scenarios. Again, there's a million low risk scenarios out there where full probabilistic answers are fine, and we're used to that. That's what we see in like GPT and stuff. But when you start getting into industry specific things with real specific outcomes, you might want to start having more deterministic logic. An example that I'm seeing a lot of is like HR conversation, where you need certain answers to be right, or you're creating legal liability. So things like that. But yeah, it's evolving, and I would say definitely keep an eye on what Salesforce is calling hybrid reasoning model. As the year goes on, I think they're going to make it easier and easier to wrestle with that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of the like you like you said, we're learning as an industry, and that feels very, very true to form right now. Um, Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us, Garry. This is really, really good to hear. Like we said, if you are interested in learning more about this, Gary's going to be joining us to do a workshop live on site at our Innovation Summit. It's happening at the end of March in Pittsburgh. I dropped a link into the chat, and if you're watching this video later on YouTube, we'll provide links there as well. I think your workshop specifically, Gary, is going to be really interesting because it's not like the deepest dive into the technical setup of Agentforce. It's more like what are the business use cases that are sort of driving the need to adopt some of these digital workers or, AI agents into your organization. And that's like right on point with our theme. That's really what we're going to be looking at the conference this year is the future of work redefined. Agentforce is a critical part of this, I think.
Hmm.
And, there's a lot of other interesting conversations we're going to have. So, please join us there. We would love to see everybody there. Garry, thank you so much for taking your time today to share this with us. This is important information to go with forward because everything is changing, the speed of light. Nice to know
Thanks so
there's
much, everyone.
guides. Yeah, there's guides out there that will help us with it. Cool. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Bye.